Welcome to the show today. Today's guest is Ralph HOFFMANN. Ralph is a diamond dealer in Antwerp, which is basically the center of the diamond industry. Before we get into the details, Ralph, first I want to say welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Jim.
Ralph, could you tell us a little bit about yourself, about how you got into the diamond industry and how you established your company?
Well, I was born in South Africa and actually studying law at the time when I was approached by some very good friends, dear friends, who have been 3 generations in the diamond business and approached me and asked whether I'd like to join them setting up an office here in Antwerp. And I went into the factory and saw rough diamonds. They intrigued me. I heard the singing of the polishing wheels, turning the rough into polished, and I said, this is exactly what I want to do. So I came over here, and that was going on 38 years, and I've enjoyed every minute of it.
Now, Ralph, you're from South Africa. Where in South Africa?
From Johannesburg originally, yeah.
Okay. You've been a long time over in Europe, and you speak Flemish, from what
I speak Flemish, which is one of the national languages, very similar to Dutch. And I speak German, which I learned because of my travels around Europe, building up clientele.
Good. What about Intralcor, Ralph? What type of business are you in right now with that? Where are your customers located? What type of diamonds do you sell?
Intralcor I established in 1983 when I went independent, and it's our head office is here. We have a manufacturing factory in South Africa. We do manufacturing, in fact, polishing in Antwerp as well. We have a branch in Seattle in America. We have a partnership in Australia and a trading office in Johannesburg as well. And the clients from basically from all the continents, America, Asia, Europe, Africa, all over.
Ralph, Antwerp is the diamond capital of the world. Can you tell us a little bit about why that is the case and a little bit about the history of Antwerp?
Well, the first recording of any diamond activity in Belgium was in 1447. But the industry itself has been going, well, for a good 550 years. One of the main reasons being that it started really in Bruges or Ghent, which is a port city in Belgium, very popular for trade and where all the royal families of Europe had a residence. A lot of trade was done with the Far East, and the ships came in first bringing diamonds from India. And at the time, back in the 16th century, Antwerp, in fact, had 40% of world trade passing through its harbour, because Europe obviously was the centre of the world at the time. And as things grew, diamonds were developed, the skills were passed on through generations, and skills have remained here. We have the best diamond cutters in the world. And that's really why Antwerp has grown from a very, very humble beginning to the diamond industry in the world today.
Well, is basically everyone in one way or another located here, either their headquarters or their offices?
Well, all the main players have an office here today. One of the reasons also being, first of all, there's critical mass in trading, both in rough and polished diamonds. We have a very good financial infrastructure with the 2 main older banks being ABN AMRO and the Antwerp Diamond Bank, ADB. There's a new kid on the block, so to speak, from India recently, another big bank which has joined. And they are responsible for financing the industry, and without them, it would be a very different business. We also have three bourses in Antwerp, 3 diamond clubs, the first one dating back to 1893. So 2 of them being over 100 years old. And this is part of the backbone of the industry.
Has the scene changed over maybe the last 20, 30 years? It seems like there are a lot more Indian players in the diamond industry in Antwerp.
Very much so. Traditionally, well, also for many reasons, I suppose, travel, it was pretty much local people that grew, and with the advent, I guess, of De Beers largely distributing more rough to various players, and especially at the time the cheaper end of the rough market to the Indian manufacturers who are very good at turning inexpensive rough into beautiful gems, and they became probably the most important player in the market now.
What about the diamond industry overall? How big is it, and where are the diamonds coming from? Where are they going to? Can you tell us a little bit about the market and the mining? And
well, as far as rough is concerned, rough diamonds as opposed to polished, the 65% of rough diamonds originate in Africa, mainly from South Africa, Namibia, Botswana, and Angola, and then various other smaller outputs. The rest from Canada, Australia, and Russia. And the consumers of the polished product, I would say probably still today 50% goes to the United States of America.
It's incredible.
It's incredible.
That one country can have that many, that much of a percent.
And the rest of it was divided pretty much through Europe and Asia, but more recently with the growth of economic buying power in India and China, they have become major consumers and fast rising to become probably to overtake the rest of the world.
How big is the total market?
The total market of diamond jewelry is around $75 billion a year. The rough input into that market is about $12 billion. Then with the value added down the manufacturing process, down the jewelry manufacturing process, and finally into retail, it takes it from 12 up to about 75 billion.
And what's the breakdown between industrial diamonds and the use? I guess you can maybe talk a little bit about the use of that and gems.
Right. Industrial diamonds account for, in volume, that is in caratage, and there's about 130 million carats produced a year of diamonds. The rough diamonds account for about 70%. In value, far less, of course, because it's where the value is in the gem diamond, which only accounts for about 30%. Industrial diamonds, of course, are consumed. They're totally used up in grinding and scouring and polishing, sawing, and they need to be replaced, whereas gem diamonds are polished. They're made into the gems that we use for jewelry and for investment purposes. And the unique thing about a diamond is it goes back to when time began, and it's here forever.
Wow. Many people in the past have heard about the blood diamonds and the concern about that. And then, of course, there came along the Kimberley process. Could you tell us a little bit about the Kimberley process, why it was established, and how effective it is?
The Kimberley process is actually it is an arrangement between NGOs, government, and the diamond industry itself, who very much wanted to get any illicit diamonds or conflict diamonds out of the pipeline. So they brought about a Kimberley certificate, which is issued with each transaction in the rough diamond cycle, starting from the mine. 99% of rough diamonds have Kimberley processes or Kimberley certificates attached to them. And it is really a system whereby the consumer can be assured that the flow of rough diamonds into the diamond chain is from legitimate sources.
Would you say, is it pretty effective for the diamonds coming through Antwerp?
Absolutely. The diamonds, all diamonds coming through Antwerp, rough and polished, go through the diamond office, which is essentially a customs office, which is run by experts who have a very in-depth knowledge of both rough and polished diamonds, and they can also identify, in most cases, the origin of the rough diamond. And should there be any suspicion whatsoever that it might have slipped through the cracks, all the signals will be alerted and the importation will be stopped and investigated.
I've been, as well as many of our viewers, in jewelry stores and to buy my wife a diamond ring before we got married. And I have to say it was a little bit confusing for me. I didn't really know what to look for, and I know people were telling me certain things, but there was a certification process, different certificates. Could you run us a little bit through what you need to be asking and what are the most important things to consider when you're buying a diamond?
Diamonds, the diamond trade itself has become highly professional. Most of the guesswork has been taken out of it, and most diamonds of any value, and now I'm not referring to the smaller diamonds which are set in jewelry, which is used, let us say, as more as a gift for smaller occasions. They do not carry certificates. The rest of diamonds, mostly, let's say from half a carat up, of a better quality, will carry a certificate. The certificates, let me just quickly add that there are 3 main certificate laboratories in the world grading independently and issuing the certificates. The one being the one in Antwerp, the HRD, the Higher Diamond Council, the GIA, Gemological Institute of America, and IGI, which is both in America and in fact has many offices around the world. Each of them producing somewhere in the vicinity of probably 1 million certificates a year, 1 million certificates plus. Now, if you were to go into a store and ask for a diamond, and you are spending any sort of reasonable amount of money for a larger stone, you would want a certificate with that diamond. The certificate is going to explain to you, give you the basic 4 C's, which is C for carat, being the weight of the diamond, C for cut, how well it is made. It gives you the proportions, the symmetry, etc. that can be explained by a reputable jeweler. C for clarity, in other words, the inclusions in that diamond, starting from flawless, going all the way down to VBS1, very, very small, etc. as you go down with more inclusions in the diamond. And the color, of course, and the color starting with colorless, being a D in the alphabet being the top color diamond, going all the way down, and the further down the scale it goes, the more of a yellow tone one finds in diamond, or brown tones. Mm-hmm. Then, of course, you get the exceptional diamonds, which are very, very rare, very highly prized and priced, being the fancy colors. Greens, yellows, blues, reds, but very rare and very expensive.
Now we're going to break shortly, just to take a look for our viewers at some of the processes about what actually you go through when you're getting diamonds and how you decide on what the cut is or which diamonds will be polished to which shape. But is there anything that you'd like to, before we actually look at that film, to talk about as far as the process for going through that?
You mean the process in manufacturing?
Yes.
Right. Well, it starts out with the mine, where the research is done into alluvial or pipe deposits. The diamonds are then mined out of the ground. They separated. And when we're talking about mining diamonds out of the ground, you talk about 1 carat per hundreds of tons of ground moved, of earth moved. It then gets sorted into various rough categories. The rough then gets sold on to either a rough dealer or a manufacturer. It is further sorted into various shapes, sizes, colors, purities, sold on to the particular polisher who will then polish those diamonds. Then it goes through a further sorting process into the polished stone, into the shapes, again, size, color, purity. And after that, sold on to either a dealer, a diamond dealer, a manufacturing jeweler, and then finally into a store, into a shop. And one thing I should add also, when going into the shop and asking for a certificate and the 4 C's, there is a 5th C which is very important, and that is confidence. And one should have confidence in one's jeweler. You've got to find out, obviously, go to a reputable jeweler, ask all the questions. If there are any doubts, they should be explained, and if there is no explanation for them, maybe get a second opinion from another reputable jeweler.
Now would be a good moment for our viewers to see a clip showing the various diamonds that Ralph Hoffmann deals with and what he does with those diamonds. And then we'll come back for a few comments at the end of the show.
Well, when diamonds come from the mine, they come in all shapes, sizes, colors, and qualities. This parcel here is the very low end. This is industrial. It's what we call bort. There are also various qualities and grades of bort. Some are used for drilling, some for scouring. This, in fact, will probably mostly be ground down to powder, which is then impregnated into steel skives, as we call it in the diamond business, for polishing other diamonds, or used as powder in various other industrial uses. Now, when we buy rough, it's either run of mine, so in other words, all the qualities and colors and shapes will come through, and each needs pricing individually, or we'll buy it already pre-assorted, depending on the source. These diamonds over here, they've only been graded according to size, but as you can see, there are darker stones, there are lighter stones, some are flatter, some are rounder, and they will need to be sorted. Some of it we will polish, others we will sell onto the market to other polishers who have their own speciality, and part of that would then go into the factory. This here you can see has already been pre-assorted. This is what we call a mackle. It's a triangular shape and used mostly to polish either a heart-shaped diamond or a trilliant, a triangular shaped diamond. And these here are fancy colors. You can see the greens and the blues. There's a beautiful little pink stone, very, very rare. A beautiful blue stone, that's also blue, also very rare. And these are the yellow warm colors.
So what makes them rare? I mean, are some of the colors, does that actually increase the value?
Oh yes, it does. The color is brought in basically due to all the different minerals which are absorbed in the whole process of the birth of a diamond. Largely nitrogen determines the absence or the presence of a color. There are huge differences. Once the most expensive diamond, and I'll explain that to you now, or the lightest color rather, is a D color, which is colorless. And as it goes down the scale, there are additions of yellow until it becomes very dark. These, for instance, that's a very dark yellow, and the price increases. Pink diamonds are exceptionally rare, so are blue, and fetch enormous prices, sometimes in excess of $1 million a carat in the polished. Once the rough has been assorted and allocated to the factory, it then gets processed, and there's a lasering system which actually divides the stone down a determined line, or sawing, pretty much the same. There's cutting, giving it its shape, and then finally the faceting, which gives it the brilliance, the final brilliance in the stone. Now these have been partially processed, most of them just having been sawn off a larger stone. Now the larger stone is not here. These are the rest bits which we will do something with later. As you can see, here is a stone which is a top of another diamond, pretty much a pyramid shape, and these are particularly good for cutting square-shaped diamonds like emerald cuts and princess cuts. Once the stone has been polished and finished, it'll come back to the office. This is a typical what we call a briefier, which comes out of the factory. All the instrumentation workings are included here to achieve the best possible finish and brilliance in a diamond. That's just the top that was taken off there, which we'll use later. And this is the finished product. And here you can see the workings of the polisher, where he had to determine the weight loss and the percentages as he followed the process. The majority of diamonds are small diamonds, and they come in a variety of colors. These are all round cut as opposed to fancy cut, and you can see how these have taken on a tone in nature. These are what we call the champagne or the light brown diamonds, white diamonds, yellow, fancy yellow, and fancy pink. And these two, of course, are very rare, as are the blues and greens and reds. But that pretty much gives you a spectrum of the colors that are commercially available. Diamonds, of course, come in all different shapes and colors. These are, on average, 30 points. which means there are 3 diamonds per carat, each again with 58 facets, and they are very commercially tradable, usually not certified, but sold in lots wholesale. Then we have half caraters in an oval shape, a pear shape. Of course, all the other different shapes are available. And some larger stones. There is a light pink heart shape. There is a pink radiant cut, a heart shape again, a cushion cut, and a green pear shape. These are all rare stones, very valuable stones. And some larger diamonds here, your normal round diamond. Here we have a radiant cut, a princess cut, and a cushion cut. These range from 5 carats to 7 carats. In fact, that one's a 9 carater. And there is a natural cognac, natural brown diamond, which is not expensive, but today very, very popular because it contrasts nicely with all other precious stones and diamonds as well. There are numerous certification laboratories around the world which grade diamonds. The 3 main ones worldwide that we are using is the HRD, which is the Hochgerat für Diamant, based in Belgium, IGI, based in Belgium and America, and GIA, of course, based twice in America and with various satellites around the world. These are the 3 most important certificates. There are others which are pretty reputable. But one really needs to be careful if the certificate is not known. One should not buy it on first impression, but get further information. Once the diamond has been allocated for processing, for manufacturing, we then start on the various stages. The first stage being ascertaining the color of the diamond. We have a color machine, even though we see it by naked eye and we assess it, we do recheck it with a coloring machine. This is a specially designed, which here in this case indicates an eye color. So once we know that, it will help us to determine whether we should polish it into a round or fancy shape, and then we move on to our next process. Once we determine the color, we will put it on this machine, having decided already where the impurities are and probably marked them. We'll put it on this machine, which will then scan it and give us the maximum optimal weight depending on the shape that we prefer, whether it's a round stone or a fancy shape. Once the diamond has been put on the scanner will calculate its weight, its shape, and give an image of the exact diamond. We can then decide what should be done with it. Now, if we check to see whether the maximum weight recoverable would be a round stone, we've done that part of the process, and here it shows 1 carat 73 from a 4 carat 95 rough stone, giving us 34, almost 35% weight recovery. Most of the diamond is actually lost in the manufacturing process. It just disappears into dust and thin air. And every diamond will lend itself either to making preferably a round stone or a fancy shape. Round stones as such are more expensive in the polish than a fancy shape. So if we decide, right, well, what will the stone give us in a fancy shape? Now let's say, for instance, we're going to look here at a cushion. If we select a cushion and we let the scanner do its work again, we'll come up with 1 carat 85. There might, however, be a larger diamond available. We can go to an oval, scan it again, and here we have a 2 carat 02. Now, because there's an exponential price increase between each size, obviously from 1.5 carat to 2 carat, there's quite a jump. It might be preferable to polish a 2 carat. But this is where our calculation comes in. We first have to all decide where are the imperfections in the diamond, and are we managing to miss them and cut them out so that the main diamond that we do recover is purer and therefore more valuable. Also, a 2 carat oval might be less valuable than a 1 carat round because of the pricing structure. Now, in the whole manufacturing process, we have to consider all the various options and all the various models. You have marquise, heart shape, emerald cut, rectangle, cushions, princess, tycoon, and each one has a different saleability depending again on the size, the color, the purity, and of course the market in which we are working. So this is all part of our calculation before we decide. Once the stone enters the factory, the decision has to have been made to get the maximum value recoverable from that rough diamond. Now, once the diamond enters the factory, it gets polished and gets returned to the office, and we then decide, we recheck the color to make sure it's the color that we predetermined, and that's not always totally accurate, as is the weight. It's also not totally accurate because as you go along, you might find further imperfections which you want to remove from the diamond, therefore your weight will be less. Once that's done, we then move on to the next process, and that gets put under a microscope if it's of a significant value, and we make our own assessment. And having done all that, it will then enter one of the laboratories. Here in Antwerp, we use the HRD pretty regularly, and if one is buying a diamond of any larger size, it's probably better to ask which certificate it has and to buy it with a certificate, because that is your form of guarantee that the stone is what they're telling you that it is.
Ralph, that was very interesting. What I was wondering myself about was where the diamond industry is going as far as the value of diamonds. I mean, people are investing in many different things, either keeping their money in cash or stocks, or I guess I would imagine in gems. And what is your feeling about that? Does that make sense to do that? Will the value rise? And if so, what is behind the rise in the value?
I think, as I mentioned earlier, the business has become highly professional. And with the advent of certification, with the advent of more current access to prices and to knowledge, diamonds have become not only a thing of beauty, a portable value, and something which is an heirloom and can always be handed down to generations. And we have to remember also that people are buying diamonds because essentially it's about happiness. It's about love, it's about friendship, it's about saying thank you, it's about appreciation. And with all of that, in that jewel, there is beauty, and one gets the wearer gets a lot of satisfaction being able to have that, being able to have something which does not lose its value and does not wear out. Now, as far as the professional investment side of it is concerned, diamonds traditionally have gone up in value. Obviously, they've been affected by cycles, as economic cycles, as all other investments have. And in the recent downturn in mid-2008, where stock markets and equities plummeted and property went down, and so did diamonds, but not as drastically. And I must say that the comeback was swift. The current diamond prices are beyond the highs of the pre-2008 crash, and they continue to rise in price. One of the main reasons also being is that diamond mines are difficult to find. Even though you have the big powers invested in the business, you have De Beers, you have BHP, you have Rio Tinto, Alrosa, all these companies searching continually for new deposits, some which they find and are not viable because they're either too deep or the return the carat per tonnage doesn't warrant the investment. And the statistics have shown, in fact, that with the demand of growth in diamonds and diamond jewelry, there are not insufficient resources to meet supply in the foreseeable future from the short to the medium term.
So that would be a very positive statement to say that it's most likely going to rise, continue to rise.
It most likely will rise. There are also numerous funds which have started up recently which invest in diamonds, where one can actually buy shares in the fund that specifically invest in certain qualities, and usually the better end, or as I mentioned earlier, the fancy color, the rarer diamonds, which have really skyrocketed in price and continue to do so. And one can buy a part of the action where these funds buy diamonds on the wholesale market, and they trade them on the wholesale market, but they also have the appreciation of a rising market.
Ralph Hoffmann, Managing Director of Intralcor, thank you very much for clarifying what goes on in the diamond industry, and we hope to have you back sometime.
John, thank you very much. It's been my pleasure.
Thank you.